Mike Kenny here, and I'm just going to give you a basic in brief into our virtual retreat. So I'll invite your attention to the handouts. So you'll see that in the handouts portion of your control panel. But bottom line is we've got a variety of great instructors that we're going to tee up for you, and then each one of them have been nice enough to provide some handouts for you to reference, so you can keep your undivided attention on them, and then you can reference your handouts later. So with that, let me take the stage very briefly, and then we're going to hand it off to Carrie. All right, everyone, I'm Mike Kenny. So we're glad that you're here at our virtual retreat. So Warriors Ascend community, as I said, it's an opportunity to kind of get reacquainted with our practices, those practices that put you on the path to healing. And then for those of you that are joining us that maybe aren't alum of our program or part of the community, it's a great intro to how it is that we do business, what is the Warriors Ascend program, what's our approach, and just the community writ large. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Carrie shortly, but I just want to welcome you all, say, hey, thanks so much, and just understand this is really just kind of a snippet of a 5-day immersive program that we use to get people back on the path to healing. So with that, I'm going to hand over to the guru to the format very briefly. So he'll give us about 20 minutes of yoga to introduce. After that, we'll be followed by Anna Saviano, who will go over some cognitive behavioral aspects, dialectical behavior theory, system 1 and system 2 thinking, followed by Jeff Miner, who's going to do limiting beliefs, followed by Amy Schoenhoff, who's going to do mindfulness for us. And then we bookend it again with the guru at the end of this session. We'll take about 10 minutes in between sessions. So those of you that have to use the bathroom or get a quick bite to eat, you can do so. That's the format. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Kerry and ensure that he's got control.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me here. You're with me in my bedroom in Evergreen, Colorado. So just to let you know, I have dogs. This morning, a herd of deer were running down the road here, so there may be occasionally a little interruption from the dogs, but hopefully not too much. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. And there we go. And I just want to let you, once again, just let you know that we have the opportunity just to be mindful, to be present. I'm going to give you a little routine of how I kind of start my day each and every morning. Now, I won't be able to see you, so if there's any interaction, just maybe do the chat feature and then Christy or Mike or somebody can intervene. But this is my morning routine, how I start off each and every day. So if you want to come to a seated position, now you can place a block or a bolster or anything underneath your glutes. Palms are down, palms can be up. I always start my palms at the heart in prayer. Then I begin to draw my shoulder blades back. I kind of tuck my tailbone, lengthen my spine, and I begin to open my heart and deepen my breath and close my eyes. And I just begin to observe what's going on in my body, mentally, physically, and spiritually, of how I feel today. I feel a little bit excited today. I feel really energized. I definitely feel loved and accepted for who I am. Then I begin to deepen my breath, slow, beautiful, organic breath. Just allow yourself to be still and to be calm. Allow that breath to become just a little bit longer. And we'll go through a series of box breathing this morning. The breath should not cause any anxiety or any stress. It should allow you to feel more relaxed and more calm. We're going to inhale for 8 seconds, pause and hold for 4, exhale for 8, pause and hold for 4. Now feel free to make any adjustments to this breath. If you can inhale for 4 to 6 seconds and pause and hold for 2 seconds, that's completely okay. It's your journey and your path where you're at today. There's never judgment. There's never criticism. There's never any expectations. Just that you showed up today. And that just you have the opportunity to feel loved and accepted for who you are right here, right now. So go ahead and exhale here and release all the stale air out of the lungs, out of the soul, out of your life. Just let all that toxic energy go. And inhale for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause and hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, let it all go. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause and hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. Now inhale, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause and hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, let it all go. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause and hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. Now continue on your own to find that slow, beautiful, organic, oceanic breath, that breath of life, the breath of love, of forgiveness and acceptance of who you are. Now just begin to observe what's going on and set your intention for what you need today. Whether it is forgiveness or patience or healing energy. Slowly, gently open the eyes. As you inhale, bring the arms up overhead for a long, beautiful body stretch. And as you exhale, kind of draw the shoulder blades down the back and tuck the tailbone. Take an inhale, lengthen and stretch a little bit further. And as you exhale, twist over to the right. So the left palm's on the right knee, right hand's gently behind you. On your next inhale, lengthen, stretch the spine, crown of the head high. And as you exhale, twist and draw that right shoulder further towards the back of the room. This time as you inhale, I want you to think about the belly, slow, beautiful diaphragmatic breath. And as you exhale, navel to the spine. Inhale, come to center, reach, gather that intention. And as you exhale, twist your torso over to the left, right palm on that left knee, left hand gently behind. Inhale, lengthen, stretch the spine, grow higher towards the heavens. And as you exhale, you twist further towards the back of the room. On this inhale, focus on the breath. The belly fills up like a big, beautiful balloon. And as you exhale, navel to the spine. Inhale, come to center, reach as far as you can. And as you exhale, hinge over at the hips and palms find the earth. Take 2 cycles of breath here as you inhale, lengthen and stretch, maybe fingertip or ocean wave those arms. And as you exhale, melt the heart further down to the earth. One more time, inhale, lengthen, stretch further towards me. Then exhale, melt. As you inhale, rise back up to center and swap the cross of those legs. Take an exhale, then inhale, reach up as high as you can. This time as you exhale, twist over to the left, right palm on the left knee, left hand gently behind you. Once again, on the inhale, we grow, we stretch higher, lengthen. And as we exhale, we twist and let go of anything that no longer serves us. This time as you inhale, think about your breath. Fill the belly up as much as you can. And as you exhale, navel to the spine. Inhale, come to center, reach and gather that intention. Then exhale, twist your torso over to the right. Left palm on the right knee, right hand gently behind you. Inhale, elongate the spine. And exhale, twist further into the posture. Inhale, fill the belly up even further. And exhale, navel to the spine. Inhale, come to center. Reach even higher this time. And as you exhale, just melt down further. Inhale, fingertip, ocean wave those arms. And exhale, melt the hearts. One more time. Inhale, reach, gather towards me. And exhale, surrender down. Inhale, come up to center. And then we're going to get into a tabletop. Shoulders are over the wrists, hips are over the knees, tops of the feet are down. Now you can place a blanket or anything you need underneath your knees to provide support. Your spine is long and straight. Inhale, drop the belly, crown of the head high. Cow pose. Exhale, drop your heavy head. Cat pose. Now inhale, cow, lower the heart, open the clavicle as much as you can. And then exhale, cat, press firmly into the hands, broaden the shoulders, bring your navel to the spine. Now continue on your own where the length of your breath, it mirrors, it matches the length of your movement. And slow, beautiful oceanic breaths. And slow, beautiful organic movements. Where your breath, your body, your mind, your heart, your soul are all connected, are all in tune. We begin to feel alive and we begin to feel free. Go through 2 more rounds here with your breath and your movements, whatever serves you this morning. Take 1 more inhale and an exhale. Inhale, tabletop, big toes touch. Exhale, melt down into a child's pose. You can melt the forehead down onto the earth, the palms. Just begin to relax. And we go through the steps of mindfulness, of a slow, deep, oceanic breath. We begin to build our awareness of all the sensations, of what we feel externally, the temperature of the room, the pressure as gravity melts us down into the earth from the tops of the feet through maybe the hips, the IT band, the psoas. The awareness of all the feelings that we have against the skin, the various layers of clothing, where the clothing is loose or tight. But more importantly, of how we feel right here, right now. As we breathe and manifest that intention of love, of forgiveness, of hope, of joy, of peace, it begins to flow through us. We truly begin to transform from the inside out. Allow yourself to count your breath again. Where you inhale for 6 to 8 seconds and you pause and hold for 2 to 4, and then you exhale for 6 to 8 and pause and hold for 2 to 4. Allow yourself to settle in that it takes time to heal. It takes time to recover. It takes time to rebuild. Be patient with yourself. As you exhale, melt all the way down into the earth. Inhale, rise up to tabletop, shoulders over the wrists, hips are over those knees, and inhale, cow pose. Drop the belly, crown of the head high. And exhale, cat. Drop your heavy head and begin to curl your spine. 2 more cycles here. Inhale, cow, lower the heart, open the clavicle as much as you can. And then exhale, cat, press firmly into the hands, broaden the shoulders, navel to the spine. 1 more. Slow, beautiful breaths. Inhale and exhale. Slowly come to a seated position. You can put those hands on the shins in front of the knees. Slowly lower to the back. Hug your knees into the chest. And just rock from right to left, left to right. Where breath, body, mind, heart, and soul are truly connected. Inhale, hug those knees in a little bit further. Then exhale, just lower those legs down into the earth. Tuck the tailbone, shoulder blades draw down into the earth. Palms are up next to the side. Close your eyes. Clear the mind, deepen the breath. Open the heart. And build your awareness of what you hear. The sound of my voice, any sounds inside of your space. Maybe the sounds outside of your space. But more importantly, the self-dialogue that you're telling yourself right here, right now. that this morning, at this moment in this breath, that you remind yourself that you're a warrior, that you remind yourself that you're a hero, that you remind yourself that you are worthy and that you are more than enough. And even with the eyes closed, what you begin to see, you can imagine your space, the four walls, the ceiling, the floor, but also imagine this earth more nurturing, more compassionate, more healing, as well as your community. But the eyes are truly the window to the soul. And when you look in the mirror, how do you see yourself? Begin to fill your heart and your soul and your lungs full of love, forgiveness, passion, and creativity. And just release the tongue from the roof of the mouth and relax through the jaw and the back of the neck. Relax the triceps and the biceps, down through the elbows, the forearms, and the wrists, and all through the hands and the fingers. Relax the shoulder blades and let the spine melt down into the earth, all the way down into the sacrum. And relax through the chest cavity, the heart and the lungs, and begin to allow the healing energy to flow through the spiritual vessel, through the stomach and the kidneys, the colon, the liver, all the way down into the pelvic region. And relax your glutes, the hamstrings, the quads. Relax the knees, the shins, and the calves. Relax all around the ankles and all through the feet, the heels, tops of the feet, the toes, the soles, and the arches of the feet. And for the next minute, just allow yourself to come into a trance where dreams and reality are truly fused together. You immerse yourself in this practice of mindfulness, of building the awareness of all the sensations. I'll bring you out in just a minute. Slowly and gently begin to reconnect the mind to this spiritual vessel and feel the transformation that's truly occurred from the inside out. That every single time we spend the time in mindfulness and meditation, we truly transform. We begin to heal and recover. Slowly and gently begin to reawaken the body, graze the thumbs over the fingers and wiggle the toes, and find gentle movement in the hands, the feet, and the wrists. And a symbolism of a fresh start and a new beginning. As you inhale, bring the arms up overhead for a long, beautiful body stretch. And as you exhale, hug those knees into the chest and rock from right to left, left to right. Breath, body, mind, heart, and soul are truly connected, are inspired, are in love. Inhale, hug those knees in a little bit tighter. Exhale, rotate over to the right side in the embryo position where the right bicep's a pillow and the left palm is on your heart. And just remind yourself right here, right now, that you are worthy, that you are loved, and that you are accepted for who you are. Inhale, left palm comes off the heart, and exhale, left palm finds the earth. Inhale, slowly, gently come up to seated at the top of the mat. Hands are at prayer, thumbs are at the sternum. The head is bowed in reverence of honor and pride. And continue. Continue to allow your breath to guide your movements. Allow your heart to guide your thoughts and your soul to guide your beliefs. The warrior in me absolutely loves, appreciates, and respects the warrior in each and every single one of you. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for everything you do for me each and every day. I hope you have an amazing day. Namaste. All right, guys, thank you so much. Appreciate that. That is part of my morning routine of what I do each and every day. And so I just get up and I focus and I observe what's going on with me mentally, physically, and spiritually. And then I deepen my breath, and then I set my attention from that. And then from then is when I dive down into awareness of all the sensations, of the feelings externally, internally, of what I see externally, more importantly, of how I see myself, of what I hear externally and internally. So thank you guys again. I appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you this evening.
All right, Anna, please speak to us.
Okay, thanks. My name is Anna Saviano, obviously. I am excited to be here. It feels a little bit weird talking to so much technology and so few people, but I will do my best to not be awkward. I'm a private practice therapist in Kansas City. I've been with Warriors Ascent for 4 or 5 years probably. I'm a DBT therapist and an EMDR therapist working with a lot of trauma. So we will go through the paperwork that you guys, I think, have access to, and if there's questions, we'll save them kind of for the end. But please do ask questions if there are, because I want to make sure that people are clear on this before we wrap up for the day. So starting just with what DBT is, dialectical behavior therapy, is a therapy originally intended for folks who have a high level of self-harm or suicidality, but also just a really great skills-based treatment. So at the top, like I said, if you have your hand out, the most fundamental thing about DBT is the idea that two things that are opposite can both be true. So that's what dialectics means. So a lot of times folks struggle with feeling one way, but knowing they should feel a different way or thinking they should feel a different way. And what DBT does is provide the space to kind of have both experiences and have it not, you don't have to pick one or the other. There's 4 modules. So if you're engaged in a DBT program, you're going to learn mindfulness, distress tolerance, emotion regulation, and interpersonal effectiveness. The mindfulness piece is the real foundation. That's the real key to it all, is being able to be in the present moment and kind of observe things. So those mindfulness skills are observe, describe, participate. We'll kind of go through those a little bit more thoroughly if you have that Venn diagram there. And take a look at how to get into wise mind. So there's two states of mind. We have emotion mind, which is pretty much how it sounds. That's kind of the high intensity, hot feeling, driven by emotion. What do you feel like doing? A lot of times this can be impulsive. These are the things that probably people in your life might be like, hey, that's not cool. Those are the behaviors that we want to kind of take a look at. Rational mind is very calm, cool, collected. A lot of times that means you're kind of shoving the emotions down. And what we want to do is figure out how to get people into that middle space, that wise mind, where emotion and rational mind overlap. That's the purple on my little drawing there. So the way to get into wise mind is by using what we call the how and what skills of mindfulness. So we have observe, describe, participate, one mindfully, non-judgmentally, and effectively. So the what skills is what you want to do. First you observe, and you do these things one at a time. So first you observe, then describe, and then participate. So you want to pay attention to what's happening in your environment. Pay attention to what's happening in your body. Take in kind of all the facts, everything else, and then you participate however makes the most sense according to how you feel and actually what's going on. So it's a both and is kind of the fundamental dialectic. How skills, one mindfully, non-judgmentally, and effectively. So how you want to do those what skills. So when we talk about observing, we do it one mindfully, non-judgmentally, and effectively. When you talk about describing, one mindfully, non-judgmentally, and effectively. One mindfully means you're doing things one at a time. So you're not scrolling your phone and talking to your kids and trying to work and drive all at the same time. You're doing one thing at a time. Non-judgmentally is maybe the hardest one for folks, and that is taking the judgment out of your observation and description. So instead of saying the weather is terrible, I hate this, it's cloudy, it's sunny, the temperature is 72, you're sticking with the facts. And that allows you to kind of disengage that emotional intensity if I cannot take it personally and not pass judgment on things. Effectively is about doing what works. So that means doing what life calls you to do, even if it's maybe not exactly what you want to do or what you would choose to do. It's about doing what works. So showing up to work on time probably is going to make your boss happy, even if you think your boss sucks. So showing up on time is being effective, even if it's not how you necessarily want to do things. So we talk about doing all of those, one, mindfully, non-judgmentally, and effectively, kind of in each moment. And those you can do concurrently. So you can do all three of those at the same time. And then you want to do the what skills one at a time. I feel like I should check in on questions. Is that, are people, am I going too fast, or is this all fine?
You're good.
Okay, cool. So really, if you've had a lot of trauma, if you've had a lot of negative experiences, you have intrusive thoughts, what we're kind of constantly, Warriors of Scent, but in any kind of like therapeutic treatment situation, we're trying to get people to be in the moment and doing their life in a way that's congruent with their values and in a way that works, right? Because if you're getting a lot of negative feedback in your life, then it's probably not working. So that's what the DBT, and the fundamental thing of dialectics being that two things that feel opposite can both be true, is such the piece of DBT that I love so much. And it's like a little bit more robust than CBT in that way. And so we are able then to really be effective and present even when there's old stuff that might be creeping up. So that's what DBT is really excellent for. There's a ton of skills that go with all the different modules, the distress tolerance, emotion regulation. We may get into a few of those, I'm not sure. But DBT skills training is very structured and gives you tons of like practical actually skills to work with, rather than just asking that we do better. So there's lots of acronyms, and it can be a really great therapy for that. Kind of just a brief overview too of CBT, which is cognitive behavior therapy. That's on the next page. Basically, the premise of cognitive behavior therapy is that if we change our thoughts and change our behavior, we're able to change kind of the external circumstances and how we're feeling about things, which is true, right? I mean, that makes sense. But there are kind of two directions that works, and I drew also a tiny little stick person there to illustrate this. That changing your thoughts, so that's a top-down approach, means changing kind of how you're thinking about things to change your physiological experience. Instead of thinking that the weather's terrible, or that your boss is terrible, or that everything sucks, it's changing toward either being just neutral and non-judgmental, or moving more toward what else is also true. You know, you have a loving partner, or you have a car that runs, or you have parents that care about you, or whatever it might be, or it's just that it's sunny and that the temperature is pleasant. It might not be anything giant, but it's about changing your thought in order to change kind of how you're experiencing the world. Bottom-up approach is changing your physical self. So that's like doing something behaviorally different. It might mean moving. You guys just did some yoga with Carrie, I think. That's a huge bottom-up way to shift things. Any kind of exercise, Tai Chi, breath work, these are all the ways to change things from the bottom up. And that allows you to, sometimes when those thoughts are really ruminating and kind of going so fast, that you can't necessarily do something different with your thoughts, but you can do something different with your body. And so that allows you to both directions shift kind of what your experience is. Cognitive behavior therapy has been around forever. In your manual, if you were in a cohort, you would have had a list of cognitive distortions. We can run through some of those. I don't have them in front of me, but there's a list of maybe like a dozen different thinking errors that a lot of people find themselves kind of looping with. And it can be really, really helpful to figure out what are the ones that kind of get you caught up. Do you catastrophize, like everything is terrible, or it's never going to get any better, or I'll always feel that way? And when you hear those words kind of coming up in your thoughts, always and never, those really extreme ones, then you know that you're probably kind of in that catastrophizing space. Another one is kind of all or nothing thinking. And so that everything about your job sucks, or everything about your relationship has to be perfect, or else it's no good. And this is where dialectics kind of comes in together as well, because it's like both of these things are true. There's always going to be pieces of work or relationships or families or whatever that are challenging, that are unpleasant, and that we don't have to, throw the baby out with the bathwater in that thinking. If you recognize those thinking errors and can start to kind of back out of it a little bit and recognize that, oh, this is one of those cognitive distortions, all or nothing thinking, catastrophizing, black and white thinking, that it's all this way or that way. Like I said, there's a whole list of them in your manual and online as well that you can reference and start to get familiar with what are the thinking errors that you maybe use that are interfering with how you experience your life in the world. Because if that's coming up for you, then you can start to challenge those and recognize that the way that I'm thinking is not fact-based. It's not the only truth. Some people really like rainy weather and some people really prefer sunny weather. That doesn't mean somebody's right or somebody's wrong. So we can kind of back out of that commitment to right versus wrong or absolute truths when we start to do more mindful observation from that kind of like zoomed out space. Okay, so we're going to shift down to the ABC model and get into some of the system 1, system 2 thinking. And I'm just looking to see what all the notes are that you guys have. I drew this little chart because I do this for my clients all the time as a way to really illustrate how things happen, and our emotional response is not just based on the thing that happened. And again, that kind of goes with that weather example of, it's not that rainy weather is fundamentally bad. And so a lot of times people think, well, this event happened and I must have this kind of response. But the fact is that our response is based on our thoughts, our feelings, our previous life experiences, what's going on in the world, what's going on in our home life. And on a day that, somebody cutting you off might not matter at all, it might not bother you. On a different day, it might make you totally bananas. So paying attention to what happened and then how do I feel, that's that emotional response. But that emotion is really strongly determined by what I'm thinking and what's happening physiologically. So if somebody cuts me off and my first thought is, oh my gosh, what does that guy think he's doing? Who does he think he is? Blah, blah, blah. And then I can feel my heart rate increase and I can feel my hands, grip the steering wheel a little tighter, and I get mad and my face does all this like angry stuff. My body is responding as if there's something like legit bad happening that I need to deal with, which then might cause me, whatever the response is, to drive faster, to zip around and go give him the what for. This maybe is not the life you want to create or live or whatever. But if I'm not paying attention to what those thoughts and body sensations are, I think that just him cutting me off is what the problem is, but it might not be that. It's that I feel disrespected and I feel ignored and I feel agitated, and that creates its own next event, which might be getting pulled over or some other kind of consequence that I'm not really looking for. Or I get home and I'm all ramped up and then I yell at my kids, and then then I feel bad about that, and then they're upset, and it turns into this whole thing. And if I'm not paying attention, then I'm not really even tuned into what all has happened. And so that's where those mindfulness skills of being able to observe, describe, participate, pay attention to what's happening externally, but also internally, and what kind of meaning am I giving to things? Do I assume that somebody cutting me off is that, who do they think they are and they're being disrespectful? Or do I assume that they've think they've got really important places to go? Or do I not care at all because it's not my problem? That might be the most peace-filled approach, is like, well, I'm just gonna get out of his way, but it's not something I'm going to lose a bunch of sleep over or get real agitated about, because that's not how I want my life experience to be. Now, obviously that's easier said than done, right? And somebody cutting you off might be like not the worst thing that ever happens to people. Most of the time folks have had lots of other worse things. And so figuring out how to engage in the system 1 and system 2 thinking helps to slow things down, explore all of this, and be able to make a choice on the event and response kind of cycle, rather than just being subject to kind of in a defensive manner, just like life happens and you're just sort of constantly batting it down or trying to navigate it. That system 1 and system 2 thinking allows you to really slow things down, think slower. System 1 is that automatic first response, that who does he think he is, and I'm going to go get to the bottom of this. A lot of times it's physiologically more ramped up. You might have your heart rate or your breathing go higher than normal. You might recognize afterward that you were engaged in system 1 thinking because of what kind of results you get. That are people telling you, like, you went from like nothing to hysterical in just a minute, and what is that about? And so when you're doing system 1 thinking, you are not being present and making choices as much as you're reacting to what's happening in a really fast and often unpredictable or just incongruent with your values kind of way. System 2 thinking encourages us to slow down, take a breath, be present, observe things. When we practice observing, when I practice this with my clients, a lot of times it's a grounding exercise of really like pushing my feet into the ground and feeling the chair underneath me, maybe doing something like this to push my hands together and get more connected to my body. Observing what's happening in my environment, like I'm in a room with green walls and there's a lot of lights and cameras, and how might that kind of be influencing me? And if I know that that makes me nervous, then I can take a breath and kind of engage that system 2 thinking, because I know how to slow things down. We want to be in system 2 because that's where we get to choose a path instead of just kind of bulldozing through life or being super numb through life. Because I think people with lots of probably the histories that you guys have are one or the other, like full speed ahead without kind of looking around and making choices, or on the other side of that spectrum and kind of numb and shut down and just going through the motions. But neither side of that is really living what Marsha Linehan calls a life worth living, and she's the one who created DBT. So that idea of really living on purpose and making choices and showing up in a way that is congruent with your values and fulfilling, and system 2 thinking helps us get there, because I can check in with myself and say, like, how do I want to be? How do I want to be with my family? How do I want to be with my partner or my coworkers or my friends? And how do I want to feel about myself and my choices, so that I can kind of like go to sleep at peace and live really intentionally according to the values that I've figured are mine for myself, not, what you were told growing up or maybe by the military or wherever else, where it's like, here's all the things you're supposed to do that you're choosing when you're engaged in system 2 thinking. This is automatic versus chosen kind of responses as well. And we don't ever even know what the difference is until we slow down and back up and kind of start paying attention. If you came to one of the cohorts, you would have spent a fair amount of time doing daily thought records. And I think you probably have a format for that in your handouts today. If not, it's in your original paperwork or online. The daily thought record is a little bit tedious and takes a good amount of time, which is what is also helpful about it, because it really allows you to slow down and get into that system 2 headspace and paying attention to kind of the whole experience that you're having. And so there's a column for keeping track of the day and the time and kind of what was going on ahead of things. Did you wake up late and you're already running late to work, and then you forgot to pack your lunch, and then you get to work? So you're paying attention to all these little things. In DBT, we also call it a behavior chain analysis. There's lots of different words for this, but it's basically after you have an event that has maybe caused you distress, or you're having thoughts that are really upsetting, that you can pause, fill this chart out, and look at, so what are the thoughts that I'm having? I'm stupid, this sucks, it's not fair, any of those kind of negative cognitions, or if you're engaged in any kind of thinking errors, I'm always going to feel this way, they hate me because they didn't call me back, whatever sort of thoughts that you're having that are causing distress that may or may not be true, those are the things that you're going to start listing out on there. And then you use the next column for really kind of challenging those. Like, maybe they don't hate me and that's not why they called me back. Maybe they were busy. Maybe their phone was off. Maybe they have something going on in their life. So you kind of counter the thoughts that you are having so that you can start, again, with the zooming out and kind of mindfulness stance of taking a moment to see what else could be true. Because what I've seen in the decade of practice that I've had is that people in the heat of a moment often don't have an accurate perception of what's actually going on. You know, sometimes I've had happen that this person left me this voicemail and they were so terrible on the voicemail and they said all these terrible things on this voicemail and it was my doctor's nurse and I can't believe she would talk that way. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that sounds terrible. Let's listen to this voicemail. Let's see what the deal is. Then they play the voicemail and it's not quite as bad as it sounded because when they listened to it, they had just gotten off work and they were tired and they were stressed. And what actually was a kind of benign voicemail felt really terrible. So we know that our feelings do not always back up what's actually going on. Our feelings are not facts. And so as you do the thought record, the daily thought record, you can start to see where I know for me that like 3 o'clock in the afternoon is when I'm tired and kind of hit that slump. And so I don't see clients at 3 o'clock because I know that's not my best work. But I don't know that if I'm not paying attention to what time of day I'm feeling tired or what clients I'm kind of maybe not as present for as I would like to be. And doing that daily thought record starts to help kind of get a sense of that being more clear. And then you can start to choose, again, how you want to respond. How do you want to show up? Instead of just continuing to kind of push forward, you can start to make some shifts in your life and how you're thinking and start to challenge that so that you're creating just a better experience for yourself, which of course then is a better experience for the people who care about you and that you have in your life that you want. I'm putting all of this out there and it's obviously super challenging, especially if you have been engaged in some of these thinking patterns for years, decades, your whole life. And I get that. It's not certainly expected that we can give you some of this, you know, skills training and then just have it be totally fine and you're gonna like not ever relapse. So a big piece of doing this kind of work is really being compassionate and being gentle on yourself and keep coming back to, I've been through a lot of hard stuff. And also, this is that dialectical thinking, I can get better and do better, and I've gotten better and done better, and I've already seen that. Even just showing up here to this webinar or to a cohort or whatever means that you're making those steps, and that's a huge deal. So to cut yourself some slack, give yourself credit for continuing to work on this, even when it's hard. I've mentioned values a few times, and I don't know if anybody's had a chance to do kind of a values assessment. You can find lists of values all over the internet. Brene Brown has a really good one, and we've used her footage in the cohort. I don't know if anything today will pop up for that, but she has a really good list of values that I use to have people kind of go through, highlight what are the things that they want their life to be lived according to. And once you start to look at what do I want my life to be about? Do I want it to be about peace? Do I want it to be about kindness or taking care of the environment or raising really good kids or whatever it might be, that as you are choosing those values and looking at really what you want to have kind of motivating your life, and I have people narrow it down to like 2, which is hard because the whole list is good. I mean, everything on it, you're like, yes, that's what I want my life to look like. But if you can get it down to 2 or maybe 3, that helps to really inform those decisions, because then when you're in this cycle of challenging your thoughts and all that, you can have curiosity is one of my highest values. So when I'm debating on what to do, then it's, well, I know that I want to be curious. I know I want to lead with curiosity and being connected to other people. So here I am, even though I'm also feeling super weird about being on all these cameras, I was also curious and I want to be connected to people. And right now this is the way to do it. So that's what kind of pushes those decisions when you know what your values are. It just makes it easier and you're not having to recreate wheels every time you're making a decision about things. I feel like I've talked a lot and talked kind of fast. What's happening question-wise?
So, all right, everyone. If you've got questions, either come up on the chat or I can unmute you. But please, I would imagine somebody's got some questions or they want some clarification from Anna. So why don't we take these next couple minutes, and if we don't get anything, I'm going to ask Anna to keep talking. No, if you've got questions, by all means, please, like I said, put them in the chat, raise your hand, or let me know in some other manner.
If anybody wants to be unmuted and talk, that'd be cool. Okay.
All right. Hold on. Dun, dun. All right, so Catherine, you there?
I'm here.
All right, please ask your question.
Hi, Catherine.
Hi, Anna. What was the name again you just referenced? When you were
Marsha
just,
Lenahan?
sorry?
Was it Marsha Lenahan?
That's it.
Yeah, she was the developer of DBT. I will say as sort of a disclaimer, if you start Googling DBT, a lot of what comes up is about borderline personality disorder, because that was the first kind of application. That's what she set it up for, because those folks were showing up and not getting the level of clinical care and the level of compassion. And DBT really has both, like high standards for clinical care, but also a real emphasis on I get it and what you're doing isn't working. So, because these are folks with like lots of self-harm and that kind of behavior, which is super stigmatized, and some of the stuff you may come across on the internet if you start down that path could make you feel slightly terrible. So just don't pay any attention to that. DBT is a great mode of therapy, even if that's not a thing that you have going on, or if it is, either way. But the skills training is really, I mean, I use it every day. I teach all my clients different kinds of DBT skills, no matter what kind of suicidality or self-harm they have going on, because it's just really like life skills. But she's the original gal.
Okay, can you spell her last name for me, please?
Linehan.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks, Catherine. Appreciate you. So anyone else? I think some people are self-muted, meaning I'm having trouble unmuting you. So hold on, let me see. There's also the chat function, everyone. So yeah, for some, let me see. I'm trying to unmute everybody, but I'm having some trouble. All right, you all have control to unmute yourselves, so please, you should see the microphone. There you go, Melissa, there you are. Speak to us.
Hi.
Hey.
So a lot of what you're, I'm actually a mental health professional and not a really good one right now because my mental health kind of sucks, but which is kind of exactly what you were just talking about with all the like the thinking issues and stuff like that. So what are like some suggestions when like you know what to do and you know like what you quote unquote should do, but you can't seem to access your own set of good skills?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I'm glad you brought that up, because nothing that, I mean, maybe I ever say is all that clever or new, right? It's all stuff that feels pretty straightforward. And that can really lead people into some kind of shame space because it's like, I know what I should do. I know all the things and I just can't do them. So I would definitely start with some self-compassion and being gentle. When I have folks that are stuck in that, I'll have them kind of do just a breath with your hand on your heart and your stomach to just get into your body and take a breath. And if that's like all you do and you lay in bed the rest of the day, I think that that's fine. Being easy on yourself and allowing for even teeny tiny bits of goodness to count. Because I think a lot of times too, people are like, well, if I can't spend, 45 minutes exercising, then why bother? I know I'm supposed to exercise, but I don't have time for all that. If you stand up and like try and touch your toes or stretch straight up or do a down dog or any of the like little things you just did with Carrie, any of those kind of movements is signaling to your system that you care and that you're willing to take care of yourself, even if you don't have the 45 minutes or whatever you think you should be having to do. And to just keep coming back into like just this very second, because it's so easy to get caught up in the like all the things you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to do this every day for the rest of your life, which to me is really daunting. So instead it's like, what can I do right this second? Maybe it's brush my teeth. Maybe it's brush my hair. Maybe it's smile. One of the distress tolerance skills in DBT is called a half smile. And that's so the distress tolerance skills are the ones that we use in the moment to deal with a stressful situation. Emotion regulation skills are the things that we ought to do every day, kind of ongoingly, to have a stable, more of a stable framework. But distress tolerance half smile is just like a teeny tiny smile, not even that maybe somebody could see, but it signals to your nervous system that like things are okay. It's a way of activating your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the relaxation side of things, that says, I'm okay. Maybe I'm not great. Like, we don't need to get crazy here, but like, it's okay. A deep breath can do the same thing. Humming, gargling, these are some kind of like weird things that also activate your parasympathetic nervous system. Singing, which, maybe that's something you can do really easily. Maybe that's a giant challenge. But finding some of those things that allow you to just be right in this moment without getting caught up in that thought space of like, I know all the things I should do. And I think you said you are a mental health professional, which makes it even worse.
I'm actually a DBT therapist.
Okay.
Which,
yeah. So when we know all the things we're supposed to do, that makes it even harder. And that's why I usually like to start with those body up interventions rather than just trying to change how you're thinking, because your thoughts are going to give you a real trip otherwise. Because it's going to feel like, well, you should know what to do because you do know what to do and you just can't do it. And what's the matter with me? And I suck and all that. So try and go from the bottom up stuff is what I would say is going to be the easiest, lowest barrier to entry, I guess. Does that help? Does that make sense?
it does. Like I'm struggling with TBI stuff, and plus I had COVID, so it's like,
Oh man.
it's like I can't get through the fog to access my own toolbox kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm beating myself up for it. And so any kind of stuff like that is like, it's okay. So I just need to like back to the basics. That makes sense.
Sure. And man, I mean, the self-compassion for that, Tara Brock, she's on Insight Timer. She's everywhere on the internet. Self-acceptance, radical acceptance, and self-compassion that's her jam. And she's amazing and has a lot of really lovely kind of meditative practices to work on self-compassion. Another DBT skill is willing hands. So it just looks like this. And it's basically the difference between doing this, which is obviously kind of an energetic no, like that's not okay, I don't accept it, etc., or this, which is I don't have to like it. And I talk a ton about radical acceptance, is this willing to accept what's happening in the world or in my life or in myself, or that I have COVID, which sucks, and that my brain is not performing optimally right now, but I accept it. That's not the same as approval. A lot of times people push back on radical acceptance because they think that I'm trying to say that they should think it's fine, but that's not what it is. Radical acceptance is about just reality acceptance and not pushing against things. So not approval, not saying it's cool, that it's fine that your parents suck, or that, you know, you were assaulted or abused or in a war or anything like that, but more that these are the things that have happened, so I accept that, and then how do I also proceed? But it looks like this with willing hands. So even if you do nothing but sit on your bed with your hands upturned, that's again kind of signaling to your body that you are accepting versus this energetic kind of pushing away or pushing against.
Thanks, that's helpful.
Thanks, Melissa. Is there anyone else? So you've got the ability to unmute yourselves if somebody wants to step up. I see a variety of questions. Tim, looks like you've got one. Heather. You having technical difficulties, or you guys shy? And if you do have questions, you can type them in the chat. You know, you'll see that off, you know, on your control panel as well. So here, let me see.
I don't know if I'm the only one that can't type in the chat.
I'm sorry?
I can't type in the chat. I could unmute, but I couldn't type in the chat. I don't know if I'm the only one.
Or how about questions then? There's also the questions tab. So there should be some there.
One other thing while you guys are kind of coming up with questions, a thing that I just thought of, Melissa, kind of to go with your question again, there's a whole bunch of different things that you can do physiologically and therapists that you can kind of seek out that do things like EFT, which is emotion focused, emotion freedom. There's two different EFTs. One that has to do with tapping, that's kind of an acupressure point, kind of like a cousin to acupuncture. EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, somatic experiencing, any of these things that get into your body and help. A lot of times it's through like a bilateral kind of movement, but help move along what's happening, because what we know about trauma is that it is stored in your brain and in your body in different kinds of cellular ways. That is a little bit above my pay grade to speak to too much, but that allows you to move it through. So basically there are 4 things you can do to kind of heal trauma. Attunement is part of it, so that's like a therapeutic kind of interaction piece. Empowerment, the bilateral, so cross body, anything you can do that alternates. Sometimes this looks like rocking. You can do it while you walk. If you do EMDR, it looks like this, or tapping your knees, or butterfly hug, these cross body actions, and ritual. So when we talk about empowerment and ritual, those are habits that you can kind of set up in your life, where maybe the ritual is, for me, every single morning before I even get out of bed, I drink a glass of water, because that is, you're dehydrated after sleeping. I know that my brain will be better off if I start with water and not coffee. And that's just part of my everyday ritual. I also try and think about things I'm thankful for every night before bed. Moving every day is part of ritual. Talking to people that you care about can be part of a ritual, maybe just drinking a cup of tea in the afternoon. Any of these things that create a ritual for yourself, and especially one if it's also empowering, these are paths out of trauma. And so those are also kind of those bottom-up physical things that we talk about that can help challenge the thoughts that maybe are negative. So that is another sort of avenue. And like I said, seeking out therapists and support people that have these different kinds of experiences can be a big piece of that.
All right. I've got some of the questions have now popped up.
Okay.
So Kay writes, when overwhelmed, how do you use System 1 and System 2 thinking to slow down and regulate your thoughts?
Take a deep breath, like I just did. that's always first. I mean, I think no matter what, is to take a breath, maybe check in with your body, because that system 1 is just the automatic, I'm not tuned into anything that's really happening. I'm just firing off what I think is, not even thinking, just firing off the next thing. System 2 comes on board when you take a breath and can get connected, grounded, etc., and really take stock. So that allows you to use mindfulness skills, observe what's going on. This person's raising their voice, and I know that when somebody raises their voice at me, I'm likely to be reactive. So maybe I need to ask for a break. That would be engaging system 2. Really trying to find a pause in what's happening. I would say not to make any kind of decision, like give it 30 seconds, give it 30 minutes. Depending on the circumstance, obviously different things will be available, but being able to back up, pause, slow things down, check in with your body, check in with when was the last time I ate? When was the last time I drank some water? Have I eaten anything? Because a lot of times, I can't tell you how many times I've had clients come into my office and tell me kind of what they eat and drink. And I'm like, well, no wonder you feel like garbage all the time. You're so caffeinated and you only eat candy, which I have no judgment of because I love candy, but it definitely does not set your brain up to perform optimally. So checking in with what am I giving myself to work with here? Do I sleep, 4 hours and it's fitful, or am I getting a good night's sleep and I'm pretty well hydrated? Then I can really perform more in line with how I want to and slow things down. And I would talk to whoever you need to talk to get those things addressed. Doctors, therapists, alternative medicine, whatever it might be, the folks that can help get those really basic things. Because if you're not sleeping and you're not hydrated, you don't eat moderately well, you're not giving yourself the proper tools to engage these things anyway. So I would start with some of that as far as like the overarching thing to do to get into system 2 more. But in a moment, I would say breathing, inhale and exhale for twice as long. There's a 4-7-8 breath that is popular, I guess, where you inhale for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8. So that can be a good practice. I would also say be practicing these things ongoingly, right? That's what emotion regulation skills teach us. And that is the stuff that increases our window of tolerance and decreases the intensity of our emotions. And the emotion regulation skills are the things that we do every day that have a cumulative effect of making us more stable, responsive rather than reactive, and that kind of thing. So it allows us to, if I practice breathing every day, it's more available when I need it than if I don't ever do anything and then there's a situation I need to respond to and I don't have any kind of baseline for that. Does that answer that question, Kay? Sort of.
I'll wait and see. I imagine it does. We'll wait for her response, or
Okay.
I'll get her response.
Okay.
In the meantime, we'll circle back to it. In the
Yeah.
meantime, Peter Perry asks, would you say that EMDR is best for someone who has several episodes of trauma that are deeply buried?
Yes, I love EMDR. I think it is an amazing tool. Really, yes. I think that the thing, if you aren't super familiar with EMDR, the thing that I love about it is that you don't have to walk through every single bit of trauma you've ever experienced. And a trained clinician can kind of get at those things without having to be like, tell me all the nitty-gritty details. Because a lot of times, one of the barriers to really doing trauma work is that people don't want to come in and tell their story again to another person and go through all the terrible details. And you don't have to do that. And Jeff may speak to those a little bit more. He's also an EMDR therapist, but absolutely, I think getting a really good trauma therapist for that, and EMDR is a really good tool to get some relief of those symptoms without having to go through every bit of that. Or, if you want to process the actual story of it too, that's the way that EMDR works, is that it is moving from the emotional limbic system part of your brain into the prefrontal cortex, where you're able to have a story about it that is not so activating, and that's how it works. So I would say yes.
All right. And Kay responded by saying you answered brilliantly.
Oh, thanks, Kay.
Yes. And Kay, we'll be seeing you Monday. So Peter says, awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. We've got about 5 minutes before we're going to take a break and then prep for Jeff Miner. So anyone else, questions, comments, what have you? We've got another 5 minutes to ask the wonderful and brilliant Anna all sorts of questions.
All sorts of questions.
Yes. So again, you can either try to unmute yourselves, or it looks like we do have the questions panel working properly. So,
I have a question.
oh, is that Tim? Sounds
Yes,
like
sir.
Tim.
It is.
Please, speak to us.
Hi,
What
Tim.
kind of alternative medicines are you referring to, or what maybe would you suggest?
I mean, I guess that's like such a broad category. I really like EFT. I don't know how alternative things are. That's the tapping. I like it because it's a way of getting past the distress tolerance. Because you pair it with a thought like, even though this terrible thing happened, even though I yelled at my kid, even though I lost my whatever paycheck, I fully love and accept and forgive myself. So you're pairing both. I like that. I have only just kind of dipped my toe into acupuncture, which I also think is awesome. I don't think meditation counts anymore as alternative, but that is a huge thing that I think people should all be doing, at least, taking time to kind of be present, paying attention to the distractions, somatic experiencing, and that kind of trauma release therapy, or those physical kinds of interventions where you're allowing your body to release the energy of the trauma that's kind of stored at a cellular level. So maybe not super alternative necessarily. And I mean, I can get way more woo than that, but I'll do that if you want to hit me up on Instagram or something.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Hey, while I'm thinking of it, everyone, all of the providers, their bios and all of that stuff are on our website. So if you want to seek them out, I think, Anna in particular, we've got her stuff as well. And if you need their contact information, by all means, just reach out to us. I mean, if you want further clarification beyond, what it was that she provided today. So, geez, with that, everyone, I think, Anna, do you have any parting shots for us?
I don't think so. This has been more fun than I anticipated.
You've been wonderful. We appreciate you, and thank you. I know it's a little bit quirky, kind of speaking to a computer and all this audio visual equipment, but you did wonderfully and brilliantly.
Thanks,
as Kay
guys.
said. No, so thank you so much.
Thank you. You did a great
All right, everyone. We've got Jeff Miner here, so it's going to be a great session. As you know, he's going to speak to us about limiting beliefs, a little bit of his background for those that don't know. He's a Iowa wrestler, tough guy, big teddy bear of a man, I like to say, that'll twist you in a knot, so don't get on his bad side. I try not to. No, but he works with athletes, MMA fighters, works in the realm of, I'll say, performance anxiety and various other things. So this is going to be great. This format, we'll see, he's going to front load some information, but this one by necessity may be a little bit more interactive. So we'll see how it goes. So again, chat features, question features, and I'll attempt, when he's ready to unmute you so that you can speak. But bottom line, if you've got questions, I'll do my level best to make sure that Jeff is able to answer them for you. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Jeff Miner.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for attending. Good to not see all of you. I wish I could. but the format isn't like that. So I'm happy to be here today. And today we get to talk about one of my favorite topics. And because I have had to put this together, folks, for me to be able to undo some of the challenges that I've had in my life. So when I put, how to change limiting beliefs, it's a step and it's a process of what do I do and how do I even know if I have a limiting belief? So I want to start with limiting beliefs. What is a limiting belief? A limiting belief is something that you believe as a result of something that's happened to you in your life. It could be your parents never thought you were enough, so you never thought you were enough. It could be you felt the need to please everybody else because you weren't feeling like you were enough. It could be you have a fear of failing because when you failed before, your world crushed. It could be a fear of letting other people down, fear of disappointing other people, a fear of people finding out that you're a fraud. It could be lots of different limiting beliefs that you have as a result of something that's happened to you in your life. So what we're going to do today is I want you to really look at this sheet on limiting beliefs. I want you to, what we're going to do, there's 3 categories, basically. And it starts with what is your limiting belief? And then the first category is somewhere that belief occurred. We don't know exactly where that belief occurred, but you know. And I want you to think about it. And so let's just say an example of that is I'm a horrible speaker. And my situation that caused me to think like that was I was in front of about 200 Olympic coaches and I had a panic attack and I froze and it was miserable. And so I got this belief in my head that I'm a horrible speaker. And so the feelings that occurred out of that situation were I'm not enough, I'm less than. I'm going to embarrass myself. There's people out there that know more. I'm going to panic. I'm going to have another panic attack. All those feelings came out of that situation. So what did I do? I went to these behaviors and I started doing these behaviors that limited my access to failing in that area. So I stopped speaking. I stopped even engaging in situations that would require speaking. So every situation, I started drinking. I started avoiding all situations, people. I couldn't speak in front of 2 or 3 people. I stopped exercising because I was feeling horrible about myself. So all these behaviors are limiting behaviors. They're keeping these feelings that I'm having alive. And the only way that I know how to change feelings, and anybody out there can correct me if I'm wrong, but I can't just say, Mike, you need to feel happier. You need to feel better, dude. Really, just do it. It doesn't work like that. So the only way I've seen how we change how we feel about ourselves, and this is a CBT theory, is it's the behaviors that we're doing and the thoughts that we're having that are happening as a result of those behaviors. So if you change those behaviors, you're going to start thinking and feeling differently about you. So what did I do? My limiting belief is I'm a horrible speaker. It came from this situation where I had a panic attack. I had those feelings of inadequacy, embarrassment, can't speak, all those feelings. The behaviors that I were doing were keeping me safe. I wasn't speaking, I wasn't going out, I wasn't trying, I was avoiding, I was doing all these behaviors to keep myself safe. What did I need to do to change? I needed to first started going to AA because I realized I had a drinking problem. Then I went to, what's that speaking group? Toastmasters. And then I started speaking in front of 1 or 2 people. And then it started to get better. The behaviors that I was doing helped me change the thoughts I was having about me being a horrible speaker. And now I have no fear of speaking. I'd love to speak. And it's all been this process of starting new behaviors. I had to start thinking different. Stop trying to rehearse everything I was saying. All those new behaviors allowed me to feel good in that area. So now I'm going to put it all together for you. And then what I would really like to do is first off, answer any questions about how to change limiting beliefs, but then I would like to go into one with somebody as a role model if we could, and talk about their limiting belief and how to go through this process. So right now, I want you to think about your limiting belief. What is your limiting belief? Take some time and think about that, because we might have 20 of them, but we can only address one at a time. And it may change other things, but let's just say your limiting belief, and I've heard this a lot with a lot of Warriors Ascent participants, is I'm not enough just the way I am. Very common. And I want you to really look at that situation. Where did that happen? Did it happen in the military? Did it happen when I was a kid and I felt like I had to prove myself, or I had to take care of everybody? Where was the situation that occurred? And really think about that situation. And if we were interacting and we were all here in a group, I would have you break up into pairs and really dive into that situation. Really go deep into those feelings that occurred. And then I want you to ask yourself the question, am I still feeling those today? Because if you're still having those feelings right now that I'm inadequate, I'm not enough, whatever it is, then they're still controlling your happiness. You're not going to feel better. So the only way to do this is break it down. Look at the behaviors that you're doing right now. Are they keeping those feelings alive? And if they are, then put in the new behaviors. And that's where we usually talk back and forth about what is it that I do need to put in. Like if you are avoiding, if you are keeping people at a distance, if you are not going deep, if you are doing those types of behaviors, then what do you need to do that's different? You need to be honest. You need to own your stuff. You need to be vulnerable. You need to let people into your world. You need to get the help. If you've got an addiction, address that addiction. It's all you taking control over those limiting beliefs. They're not real. They're made up in our minds. You know, fear of rejection. You know what? Yeah, we're probably going to get rejected and we're still going to live. The other, we're going to let other people down. Yeah, it's probably going to happen, but we're going to live. So what I would like to do is, and we could do this with Christy. Maybe we could, right, Christy? Christian. Oh, maybe with Christian. All right, all right. I was close, right? So is anybody willing to go there? And if you are, if Christian is, let's turn him on and have him go to his limiting belief.
All right, Christian, I'm trying to unmute you, my friend. Try to unmute yourself. And if you can't, then type it in the text or really type it in the questions. So you'll see the questions tab. Right. He says, I don't have enough time for myself, my kids, and work. Got it, got it. So did you get that, Jeff?
Yeah.
So yeah, Christian writes, I don't have enough time for myself, my kids, and work, and his work.
I would say, tell me about that.
So yeah, Christian, expound, elaborate. Yeah, I still don't have you. I don't know why. Do you have yourself unmuted? Do you have that ability?
As we're waiting, I'll just kind of address that. Christian, you don't have enough time, but you do. You're probably just prioritizing it in ways that aren't beneficial to you. And we all have the same amount of time, and we all got to figure out how we're going to best use it for us. So if your limiting belief is I don't have enough time, it's when did that occur? Where did that occur? Did it occur in the military that I got to get all these things done? Did it occur? Where did that mindset occur? And then what feelings does it cause? Anxiety, pressure, doubt, worry, stress, that I'm not getting all my things done. And then what behaviors are you doing that are keeping those alive? So then you look at those behaviors, Christian, and look at what do I need to do to change that?
All right,
So,
let's go to Tim.
okay.
Tim, speak to us, buddy.
Hello, how you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Tim?
I'm okay. I just like you said earlier, I don't feel like I'm good enough, especially since getting injured and having to retire.
So tell me about what it feels like to be not good enough, Tim.
Well, it sucks. I feel bad that, my wife's the breadwinner now, going out to work every day while I'm sitting at home. And I feel like I'm not supporting the family the way I should.
Right. What would make you feel better about that?
I'm not sure.
Like if you were doing what? If you were doing something different, like what would the goal be?
Well, my goal would be to get back to work, but I know that that's not physically possible. So I'm not sure where to go from there.
Right. So you said the feelings that come out of this are you feel horrible, you feel like you're less than, not enough.
Yeah.
So let's look at the behaviors that you're doing with that, Tim. Right now, what are you doing that are keeping those feelings alive? Because if you want to feel like you're enough, you've got to take care of you. Are you doing that?
I guess I just reminisce on stuff.
I missed that. Could you say that again?
I reminisce. I bring it back up and think about it.
Right. So what else are you doing that's keeping it alive?
I'm not sure because I'm getting out. I'm exercising every day, which makes me feel great.
Good,
And clears my mind.
good. Are you escaping using any type of escaping behaviors?
Such as what you mean?
Like drinking, smoking,
No.
okay? And what other, like reminiscing, sounds like, are there anything else that you can think of that you're doing to avoid connection, to avoid going deep, to avoid talking about these things? Are you doing any of that, or are you addressing those issues?
Well, it's kind of hard to speak to my wife the way I probably should.
Tell me about that.
Well, I know I need to open up more,
Right.
but it's tough.
Yeah. So on the limiting behavior side, it's you're keeping things inside of it, you're not engaging as much, you're trying to, and you're keeping from owning your shit, so to speak.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So we look at those behaviors that you're doing that are keeping this alive. What are the new behaviors, Timmy, you got to do to change how you feel about yourself?
Well, I mean, like I said, that exercise really seems to help a lot. I'm getting back in shape and
Yeah,
makes me feel better about myself.
right. Right. What else?
Well, I'm trying to spend more time with my wife than I used to.
Great. But is it about just spending time?
No, it's about connecting. Which lately we've been watching a bunch of stupid shows, so that's kind of a connection.
How do you do that, Tim?
But we just kind of hang out in the living room and watch some interesting shows. And I don't know, we're connecting on some kind of level through that.
Yeah, I think that's a start, but what if you let her into your world and opened up and told her how you were feeling and encouraged her to be on your journey and not push her away from it?
Yeah. I mean, I need to do more of that.
Why don't you?
That's a good question.
Because you don't think you're enough. Maybe you're afraid of her not respecting you or wanting to be with you anymore if she knows the real you.
Well, I think she knows the real me. It's just, I don't know, it's just hard to open up.
What's keeping you from it?
I guess fear of bringing up past experiences and feelings.
Right. And so you say your number one challenge is you reminisce and you go back into the past, and that's what brings you down and affects your happiness and your belief in you, right?
Yeah, I started thinking about my career and how I lost it, and how I used to help people all the time, and I was in a brotherhood of the fire service, and that's like all gone now, and so it's kind of tough to find purpose. And
Right. So you're saying these things, Tim, like it's tough to find purpose and it's difficult to let her in and it's difficult to not reminisce. They are difficult.
yeah,
It's really hard on all of them. And I think this is why you're here today and you're going to bat and you're doing the things that you need to do because what you're doing today, Tim, is owning your shit. You're walking into your fear. You're addressing these challenges in your life, and you're not just sitting back. So this is the change. This is the new behavior list. You doing things like this, you coming to Warriors Ascent, you opening up and taking the chance to dare greatly and walk into the arena and talk to everybody out there with me.
Yeah.
This is a huge step forward, Tim. It's you not trying to hide who you really are.
Yeah, that's true.
How do you feel when you let people really into your world? You just let 25 people into your world.
I mean, it feels good. You know, and my wife, I'm sure, has been listening to me for the last 5 minutes, so
Good.
I guess it's out now.
You go there because you deserve it, my friend. So it sounds like, Tim, I want to just summarize a little bit of what I heard. You've got some limiting beliefs. I'm not enough. I have to prove. You had several situations that could have occurred in, and where that came from. And the feelings are that you're not enough and you don't like to express your feelings. And so you got these limiting behaviors that are keeping you feeling like you're not enough.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
so-
it's not as bad as it used to be. It's definitely improved, but
Yeah. So tell me this new behavior list that Tim started and he is going to continue to do into the future.
well, I'm going to continue to open up and
Yeah.
own my shit.
Yay! Go Chiefs!
I think that's great, Tim. That could be the best outcome of today. Is if we all could own our shit and be real with ourselves and realize that our feelings are important. You know, expressing those, what's happened to us, not just the situations that you've been through, Tim, but the feelings that you have now are what you tend to hide. And that's what needs to come out. And that's what will help you with the anxiety, stress, and feeling bad about yourself.
Okay.
Thanks for taking the risk, bud.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.
You bet.
All right, we've got something from Heather Bruce. So I'll read, Jeff, and then please respond. My thoughts encompass the quote unquote, I'm not enough and I'm not worthy. These thoughts originated from childhood with my father telling me I was worthless. I've run into circumstances in my adult life where those thoughts were reinforced with failing a task or not obtaining certain things in my life I really wanted. Although I have recently achieved one of my life goals, I have these thoughts that I will fail and do not deserve it. I felt the same with receiving the highest award for doing my job because I did not think I did anything more than just doing the job. I do not view myself the way others and my supervisors view me because of the mindset which was instilled in me while growing up. Not quite sure what the first step would be to permanently change my mindset. So Heather, hey, thanks for sharing that, and I'll let Jeff answer.
Heather, I would love to see you for one-on-one counseling because that sounds like a really achievable goal. You were set up and this happened, and we probably can't fix it on a one limiting belief worksheet. But I do believe that all those things set you up to feel like you needed to prove and always feel like you're not enough just the way you are. And I got to prove. And even when you achieve these great things, it's like, I still am not there. I've worked with so many athletes, so many people in my life that's their thinking process. And when it is, it's like, I've worked with a lot of perfectionists. I've worked with a lot of people that if you want to be great at anything, be a perfectionist. But you got to learn, if you're a perfectionist, you got to learn how to enjoy the ride. And that's what most perfectionists don't. They beat themselves up all the time and they never have any fun, even if they're great. They can be one of the world's best. And if they're beating themselves up and not enjoying it, why do it? So a lot of times, this situation where your father and you weren't enough and you always felt like you need to prove, that turns into like different man situations where you're always feeling like you need to prove yourself to a man, and it feels like you're always trying to prove yourself. So those feelings come out of there like, I'm not enough just the way I am. I'm anxious. I got to be on my game all the time. I've got to be perfect. I got to be better than everybody else. Those feelings came out of that when you were a kid. So they traveled with you throughout life. And I've always got to prove, I've always got to show everybody that I'm enough. And that's pressure and that's weight. And that's like living in fight or flight or freeze all the time. It's not a fun place to live. So that's all occurred to you. So the behaviors that you have done that are limiting you is, I've got to be perfect. I've got to show everybody. I've got to be there for everybody. I've got to do all these behaviors that are keeping you stuck in that mindset of, I am not enough. The only way you're going to change that kind of mindset is when you start seeing that this is good stuff. This is good shit. You are enough. You know, you're plenty. You are more than enough, but you've never seen it like that. And that's going to take some twisting of behavior, twisting of thoughts, twisting of a lot of different things. One of the, you know, we go down to those behaviors that you're limiting yourself on. Let's move over to the new behaviors. The first one I would say is go to therapy. You deserve it. You're going to be so happy after just a short time in therapy, I think, because that kind of thinking has put so much pressure on you your whole life. Some of the other ones are putting you first, not worrying about pleasing everybody else, seeing your value, starting to love you, all these different kinds of behaviors you can do that are going to set you up for success and to feel better about yourself, because that belief of I'm not enough, that sucks. And that's deeply ingrained in a lot of us. So thank you, Heather. I hope that answered your question. If you have anything more, go ahead and ask.
So Christian, do you want to elaborate further? Can you unmute yourself, brother? There you go.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, no, perfect. There you are.
Hey, sorry about that. And part of what I was elaborating or going to get into was actually what part of the problem was when I was sitting here dozing off, not because of the lack of interest in the speaker, but because of my work schedule. And so,
Yeah.
you know, like I worked till 4 a.m. last night, and my kids are young. I'm a little bit older for to have young kids, but such is life. And so I had to work late last night, and I usually get about 2 or 3 hours sleep. And it is hard to manage a life when you have lack of sleep and kids that are ready and raring to go in the mornings and things like that. So I started hearing my name being called, and I jumped up and was trying to get back into the swing of things. So I apologize for that. But yeah, so that goes to kind of what I was saying is that, you know, with my work schedule and life and stress from that, and kids that are young and ready to go all the time, and my wife who works as well, it just is sometimes overwhelming and feels like I can't catch up and find the time to kind of take care of myself in the many different ways that I might need to, whether that's just recreationally or, you know, just relaxing or anything like that. Aside from a lot of the issues that creep up personality wise, that I've kind of carried for several years or decades, kind of like your previous speaker was talking about, a lot of negative talk or thoughts about situations that occur and work and things like that that are going on. I'm a first responder in a rather challenging city that has a lot of problems that and all the things that come along with being a police officer nowadays. And so that's been a challenge as well. And so a lot of that kind of creeps into what happens in my home life as well.
Right. So how important, Christian, do you think self-care is on the priority scale?
I think it's very high, but I haven't been able to achieve it very well lately, for sure.
Right, me too. I struggle with it too, but so now I'm gonna give you a little situation just to ask you, dude, you just got diagnosed with kidney failure and you got to go have dialysis every day. Are you gonna do it?
Sure.
Yeah. Right now you're killing yourself, dude. You're trying to put everybody else and everything in front of your self-care. And self-care always needs to be number one, or else you're no good to anybody. And I know that sounds bitter and harsh, but you gotta get out of victim shoes and get into victor shoes. It's like, I know that this stuff is happening, but how am I gonna put me first and take care of me so that I can be there for my kids, be there for my job, be there for my wife? And that's gonna take you consciously putting yourself first. And that's not easy to do. This is selfish time. If you wanna be valuable to the ones around you, you've gotta be selfish. You know, somewhere along the line, you learned that you had to self-sacrifice. What was important to you, Christian, wasn't important enough. It was the mission, the job, the taking care of everybody else and doing this and family and that may work for a while, but it doesn't work forever because then you have pressure and you are expected and you have these beliefs that I have to be the savior and I'm Superman and I can take care of everybody else and the same rules don't apply to me. They do. You got to put you first.
Well, like you told the previous gentleman, I think one of the big first steps, despite being overly tired, was suggested by somebody that I go see to join the webinar today. And so I did. So that's a good first step.
Yay, I am so impressed with that. I love that you're doing this. Self-care is so hard to do when we've been trained to not do it. You know, the military, most places teach us not to take care of ourselves. And it's like, wait, you know, church teaches us that, all these places. But in reality, you got to put your mask on first or you're going to die. Thanks for showing up, bud.
Thank you. Thanks for your advice.
You bet. Feel a little bit like a talk show.
It's a little bit. No,
Like a
so
radio DJ.
anyone else? Who else do we have? So just to recap a little bit, Heather says it's exhausting living in the fight or flight and trying to really prove myself.
Right.
So that's in response to.
You are so right, Heather. I have done that. It sucks. I wrote a book on it because I was so bad at it.
All right, who else? Will Conrad. I know you've been trying like the Dickens to establish some level of connectivity. Okay, wait a second. It looks like I may have you now. Will, speak to us. Will, you there? All right, you just muted yourself.
Will he make it?
Try it again, buddy. You were just there.
Come to us.
All right, Will.
Silent.
All right. Anyone else? Anyone else? All right, Jeff, what else? What else do you have for us?
What else do you want? I got all kinds of stuff, Mike.
Well, I mean, give us an example of maybe some of the people, without naming names, but, some of even your high performers, your athletes and the things that they deal with, so maybe it'll be a good example, giving us an example of somebody that's dealing with, their set of limiting beliefs, again, without naming names per se, but, and what it is that they're going through and how maybe they resolve that or how they overcome their anxiety, performance anxiety, whatever it might be.
Well, let me start with, it's like, this is one way to get to those things. It's like clear cut, 1, 2, 3, address your limiting belief, go down that rabbit hole. Probably the best way to truly address limiting beliefs is in therapy. And going there and doing like an EMDR session or where you really dig into the trauma. And here's kind of how trauma therapy works in general is trauma therapy, all the different types of trauma therapy, most of them have a desensitization process, which means you just talk about it. And every time that you talk about a trauma, every time you bring up a trauma and go into it in depth and look at it a different way, that's actually healing. So there's different kinds of trauma therapies, and in those, you have them go over the trauma often. A lot of therapists believe that that's re-injuring the client or whatever and re-traumatizing. And it's like, yes, but if you don't address those, it's like holding down our traumas and believing that they're going to go away. Those feelings, those emotions, they're never going to go away just on their own. They might feel better at different times, but when you discuss them, when you go there, it's like addressing a fear. Usually we run from fears. That's what we were talking about today is we avoid difficult situations. Most of our limiting beliefs are because we're avoiding or it's a fear-based. People say, I'm lazy. No, I don't think you're lazy. I think you're afraid. I think you're afraid to feel. I think you're afraid to be real. I think you're afraid to be, and our fears are what keep us from joy, from happiness. Everything we want is on the other side of fear. And so when we don't address those fears or doubts or worries, they're going to control our thoughts. You're going to reminisce. You're going to live in your head. You're going to go to the past and be depressed. You're going to go to the future and be worried. It's like the more you can deal with fear, face head on, talk about those situations. Every week when my athletes come in, when I work with people, it's what are your top 5 fears? Let's address those. And then they go away. It's how it works. But they're not going to go away if you keep talking them and not addressing them and not dealing with them. They're just going to stay there like that beach ball at the ocean.
I think that's a great point. I've heard it called, there's goal setting, and then I think Tim Ferriss from 4-Hour Workweek talks about fear setting.
Right.
And much to your point, a lot of times it's almost this amorphous sense of fear about something, the consequences of which are really not insurmountable.
Right.
And it holds you back. And then once you really diagnose it and break it down, you're like, I'm afraid of this, and what's the worst thing that's going to happen?
Right.
It's really not that bad, and it's really holding me back from doing things that could really, help me, or put my life on a really positive trajectory.
Yes.
If it weren't just for that fear just holding you back. So I think that's
exactly right. Even if it's like a fear of what if I'm an alcoholic? Addressing that, going there instead of just wondering what if and worrying about it and stressing about it all the time. Go there, feel it, talk about, okay, I am. Now what do I want to do with that knowledge? We're afraid to go to those places.
That's exactly it. It's, and it's almost like intangible. You know, in other words, there are things that, you know, it's just this sense like, ooh, this is not going to be good, or oh, and you're like, what's the really worst that's going to happen?
Exactly.
When you break it down that way, you're like, this is what I was afraid of. Just go out and do it.
That's how I've had to live my life, Mike, is using that statement, what's the worst that can happen, over and over. It's like, usually it's not. It's like, okay, I might have a panic attack. Well, so what? Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, it looks stupid. Okay, so what?
Right.
You're right. Okay, no big deal.
And then the other thing, you hit it right on the head. I've heard it said before, but you can either step forward into growth or back into safety. You know, and a lot of people step back into safety. I mean, you know, hey, myself included, there are times when it's like, I want to put myself out there.
Right.
And then you really look at it and go, man, the only way to grow is not to do something foolhardy,
Right.
but to take a little bit of a risk, a calculated risk.
You have to step forward. Either you're going up or down, you know, and it's like, if you're stepping forward into the challenge, into the fear, into the risk, into, you know, everybody that got online today, I admire, because it's like they're stepping into that fear. It's not fun. I don't look forward to coming, you know, I'm a client. Oh, I can't wait till this Warriors are sent me. Because I'm going to be vulnerable and I'm going to be raw. And that's where healing takes place. That's where life is lived. It's that passion, it's that excitement, not the fears, the doubts, the worries.
So, okay, Will, are you there, buddy? You're unmuted. Will Conrad, speak to us.
Speak, Will. Speak.
Speak. All right, it says you're not attentive. Are you there, buddy? And if not, just write something, but you're unmuted from my optic. Just in the interim. So Troy Taff writes, just FYI. WA, just want to thank you for doing this for all of us. I want you to know you are loved, and I'm so very proud of each and every one of you for being brave and taking a step in the right direction. No, you are not alone. Well done, Worsen. Appreciate you, Troy. Yeah, and everybody for, you know, coming on board and sharing, you know, everything that they've been through. I know that, you know, that's not easy. God, I'm trying to get Will. Come on, Will. Speak to us, buddy. I think he's offline. We'll get him on the back end. Is there anyone else that wants to share? Anyone else that has anything to say? I'm looking at the questions tab. Got Tim. Tim, you got anything to say, buddy?
No, I'm good. Thanks, Mike.
Okay. Will, are you there? Will Conrad? According to I see you in the chat, Will, or the questions, I should say. It says you're unmuted, man. But obviously I'm not, I don't know why, I'm not hearing you. Maybe you're, dude, if you just put your question or whatever in the question box, man, you know, and Jeff can address it, you know, question or statement. All right. I don't know what the issue is. Maybe it's just a connectivity issue. All right, Jeff, any parting shots, my friend?
Well, I gotta give the Chiefs some love here. The Chiefs are playing today, yay! For all you people out of town, you could probably catch the game because I know everybody's liking Patrick. I want to thank you all for attending and taking time on your Sunday to hear what I have to say. I want to thank everybody for participating. And I really think that if you took the time to come here and listen today, you're taking the right steps to take care of you. So congratulations on addressing your shit.
All right, Jeff. No, hey, we thank you as always, my friend. Love what you do. Love what you stand for. Love you. And I hope everyone got something out of that and really kind of, thought to themselves about what are the limiting beliefs that are holding them back. And hey, to be quite honest, I think everybody, no matter how high performing they are, has some level of limiting belief that is keeping them from being the best that they can be. So really take that seriously. Do some introspection and write down, think, hey, what is holding me back? What are my limiting beliefs? And then also, where does it stem from? Where do they stem from? Deconstruct that and get past it. Step forward into growth. So on that note, we're going to take a break until 1300. That's 1 o'clock for you non-military types, Central Standard Time. And then we'll reconvene with Amy Schoenhoff for some mindfulness. So stick with us. It's going to be great. Jeff, thank you, my friend.
You got it.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Well, here we go. Welcome, everybody, and it's good to be with you all today. So I have actually picked kind of a subtopic within the topic of mindfulness to talk with you all about today. And what I want to speak with you on is the subject of self-compassion, and how self-compassion can support us in moments when we're meeting challenge, and also in our healing trajectory, especially as it pertains to trauma healing. So what I'll be spending the first part of my time speaking with you about is just kind of outlining what self-compassion is. We'll kind of talk about kind of misconceptions about self-compassion and what self-compassion actually is in relationship to those misconceptions. I'll briefly talk about what research suggests is helpful about self-compassion, specifically with regard to trauma healing and trauma recovery. And then we will do some practices together. So for the sake of our time together, I do want you to know there is information about everything I'm going to talk about today in the packet that Mike has provided for you, or Warriors Ascent has provided for you. So don't worry about taking notes. I just encourage you to, as best you can, be here now, present and attentive to the content, and just as I share, to notice how it resonates for you, and notice also moments when it doesn't, because that's useful information as well. So just try to stay present with the content as it's shared. We will have time at the end to talk both about the practices and any questions you have about self-compassion. So see if you can if you have questions as we go, just jot them down or put them in the questions tab or box that you have available to you. And let's just try to be here present together as best we can. So when we think about self-compassion, I'll begin by saying that self-compassion really houses itself within the domain of what I often refer to as the heartfulness of mindfulness. Because when we're talking about mindfulness, we're not just talking about being present or in the present moment, we're talking about being in the present moment in a particular kind of way. And that's the heartfulness piece of mindfulness. It's really about how we are relating to ourselves in terms of what's happening internally, but also how we're relating in terms of what's happening externally. It's this interface that we have and the attitudes that we carry into that interface that is where heartfulness really finds itself within the kind of larger body of mindfulness practices. So these are actually things that we can, heartfulness are formal practices and informal practices that we can cultivate and learn and integrate into our lived experiences so that we can live not only more aware of our present moment experience, but also in a way that's more authentic in terms of meeting ourselves as we are, meeting life as it is. And I would say with a certain amount of hope and positive regard, stepping away from the mind's inclination to be judgmental or critical and moving into a space of being more kind and curious towards our experiences. So let me first define what self-compassion is. Self-compassion, formally defined, is extending compassion to ourselves in instances of perceived inadequacy, failure, or general suffering. So it's really meeting our own moments of discomfort. I mean, if you want to just, hone it down, it's meeting our moments of discomfort, not distracting ourselves away from them. Self-compassion is about meeting ourselves with kindness and care when we are in a moment of difficulty. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about and learn more about and practice together, how we do that in the moment when we are facing difficulty. Now, self-compassion really relies on kind of 3 quadrants of engagement. One has to do with kindness. That's one kind of quadrant of self-compassion. The other is shared humanity, and the third quadrant is mindfulness. So let's speak about kind of each one of these individually. When we think about kindness, this is really about offering care and self-kindness to ourselves when we experience difficulty. So switching out of the mode of being judgmental and critical towards ourselves, which can be really revolutionary, especially for those of us who have a really critical framework in terms of our thinking and thinking processes. So if you have a harsh inner critic who kind of berates you or berates what's happening to you or how you relate to yourself, this is a way to meet that self-critical voice with kindness and care and really start to reframe that relationship. So you could really look at the kindness and care of self-compassion really being an antidote to judgment and criticism. The second piece of self-compassion has to do with shared humanity, or common humanity is another way that it's talked about. So when we think about when we get into spaces where we are really having a hard time and struggling, oftentimes our mind can get us locked into the belief that what is happening to us is unique to us. We can get really isolated. Our fears, our sadness, our pain can often create a sense of being alone. And oftentimes there is this sense of withdrawing and moving away from the rest of the world when we are suffering and struggling. So what self-compassion really invites us to do is to recognize that whatever perceived failures we're experiencing, or whatever perceived inadequacies we may feel about ourselves, or even the trauma experiences, the traumatic experiences we've had, to broaden our awareness and attention to recognize that we are part of a human family, and that the things that we experience, although the stories may be unique to each of us, it is a shared experience. All human beings experience illness. All human beings experience sadness. All human beings experience trauma in one form or another. It is a shared experience. So this idea of common humanity is really broadening our lens to remember that what we are experiencing is not specific to us or something that we experience alone. That this is part of being a human being. This is part of what every human being faces in one form or another throughout our life cycle. And that sense of common humanity can move us out of the place of feeling isolated or being in a space of self-pity. So self-compassion and self-pity are really 2 different things. And I'll talk more about that in a moment. And then the last piece, this idea of this quadrant of mindfulness, that we can't offer self-compassion to ourselves if we can't experience or be present with our suffering. So the mindfulness piece is how we bring awareness to the present moment of suffering, right? Oftentimes when we experience discomfort or don't feel at ease within ourselves, many of us have habits around distracting ourselves, moving into activity or moving into numbing ourselves, or doing something to get away from the suffering that we're experiencing. What self-compassion is doing is inviting us into it, to be present with it, to suffer with, which is what compassion is, suffering with. And then also meeting it. How do we not only meet the discomfort, but then work to alleviate it? Okay, so the mindfulness piece has to do with being present and being able to acknowledge the moments of suffering, to not push them away, to not pretend like they're not there, to acknowledge them, hold space for them. And that is an antidote really for over-identification with our experiences. Because oftentimes, especially in the case of trauma, I think we can get over-identified. That, you know, our suffering can become a story about a belief system that we hold about ourselves, what's possible for us in the world. And mindfulness can really help to pull us out of that over-identification with ourselves, along with that idea of common humanity, that this is, we're having an experience, it's a challenging experience, yet we can still move through it. You know, that things are constantly shifting and changing. No felt experience, whether it's physical pain in the body, whether it's cognitive thinking that is rigid and fixed and harsh, or whether it's emotions that are difficult. All of these things are transient. And mindfulness really helps us to be aware of this, that all these things are just coming and going. They are not our identity. They are not who we are. It's an experience that we're having. Okay, so that's really kind of these quadrants of self-compassion that make up the practices of self-compassion. And some common misconceptions about self-compassion, I really kind of want to address those and provide you with some research that kind of counters any beliefs or notions we may have about self-compassion in terms of misconceptions we have about self-compassion. When we talk about self-compassion, oftentimes people think of self-compassion as a form of self-pity. And as I mentioned before, you know, self-compassion is really embodying or remembering this idea of shared humanity or common humanity. And that really pulls us away from ideas of self-pity, because self-pity really comes from a place of feeling alone and isolated in our experience. So the common humanity portion of self-compassion really pulls us out of a space of being alone in our suffering. It reminds us that we are part of something larger and shared, and is not the same as self-pity. These are actually two distinct things. And based on research that's been conducted, people who are self-compassionate tend to take a larger perspective outside of themselves and are able to shift their focus from their internal distress. So they actually can be aware of their own distress, but still operate in relationship to other things that are happening. Another misconception about self-compassion is that it's a form of weakness. To be self-compassionate means to be weak. But self-care is really a form of strength. Self-care is how we develop and maintain our resilience in the face of stress and discomfort and difficult situations. So you can think of self-compassion practices as well as these are forms of self-care. So if we really want to cultivate resilience, cultivate strength, it needs to be with a sense of being able to meet and address our own suffering. And here the research suggests that self-compassionate people are actually better able to thrive in the face of adversity, including trauma. Now, the third misconception has to do with self-compassion as being passive or soft. There is a quality of self-compassion that's really based on being dynamic and fierce. You can think of this component of self-compassion as being able to speak up for ourselves when we need to speak up for ourselves. That is an act of self-compassion. You know, being able to say to someone, hey, too much, or wait, I need to take care of myself. You know, these are acts of self-compassion that do have a sense of fierceness or commitment to ourselves, that is not about being passive or soft. It's not about just laying down and letting life walk all over us. And in fact, I would suggest to you the strength it takes to meet moments of difficulty, if we genuinely try to meet and embrace our suffering or the suffering of another. If you've done that, those are not small tasks. Compassion is a challenge. It's hard to stay present with discomfort, whether it's our discomfort or somebody else's discomfort. To be present and want to attend to suffering is something a lot of people don't take the time to do for themselves or anyone else. So I just want to reconnect us to this idea that self-compassion can be strong, it can be fierce, it can be dynamic, it can be about advocating for ourselves, it can be about drawing boundaries for ourselves, it can be about advocating for other people who can't speak for themselves. That there is a dynamic and strong component of compassion that we need to remember. It's not about being soft, it's about caring. It is about caring. It's about saying that something is important enough to take care of, whether it's something that's happening to ourselves or something that's happening to someone else that we care about. So next, actually, let me take this here. So the next thing I want to mention or talk briefly about is why self-compassion is important in the face of the work that we're doing with trauma. And there are some both research and really practical reasons that we should be thinking about how self-compassion can support the work we're doing to heal. So there are really two primary, at least research-based, primary findings with regard to self-compassion in relationship to trauma and dealing with trauma. The first has to do with our ability to self-regulate. When people, take the time to pause and be with difficulty, to be with their own suffering, they're really building what we refer to as the window of tolerance. And I've talked about this before in the training I've done with Warriors Ascent, that when we have trauma, when we've had traumatic experiences, oftentimes we easily dysregulate, our nervous systems easily dysregulate, and our windows of tolerance are really low. And what I mean by that is that, especially in some circumstances where we might be triggered, we may move into states of hyperarousal or hypoarousal pretty quickly as a result of the experiences that we've had. What self-compassion can really teach us how to do is learn how to slowly learn how to self-regulate. So really learning how to open that window of tolerance and using self-compassion as a means to do that. So really what we're learning how to do is modulate the sympathetic nervous system, which is tied to the fight or flight response, and also modulate the parasympathetic nervous system. And so some examples that research that's been conducted suggests that people who have greater self-compassion, they have a better ability to regulate, or they have a higher level of what they refer to as heart rate variability, which it has to do with a greater ability to self-regulate themselves. So they're really able to tap into the level of arousal within their nervous system and meet it, and meet it in ways that don't move us into hyper or hypo arousal. And over time, as we work with the practices of self-compassion, we can learn to slowly open that window of tolerance using self-compassion practices so that we can take on more and more discomfort without becoming dysregulated. The other place that self-compassion can help us with regard to trauma work has to do with feelings of shame that many of us carry associated with our trauma. You know, our trauma can get really caught up in feeling like we failed in some way or feeling like we're inadequate in some way. Many of us who have trauma histories, have to deal with carrying a certain amount of, we deal with carrying around a certain amount of shame related to our trauma. And as I mentioned earlier, self-kindness and care can help to start to replace the cognitive distortions we may have that are related to our shame. It's like meeting the internal critic with new messaging, languages that are tied to taking care of ourselves or taking care of our pain and making our pain and distress important, making it worth attending to. So we can start to kind of meet the ways, the languages of shame that we carry around with ourselves and start to insert kind of new ways of relating to ourselves. And as I mentioned before, in terms of, meeting our own shame and the discomfort of that, shame often will evoke within us, recognizing that these are just temporary feelings that are coming and going. And once again, this idea of common humanity moving us out of the isolation of shame, that self-compassion practices can really help to meet that shame in a way that is caring, and we can meet it with a sense of kindness towards ourselves. So we can really start to kind of unwind the messages of shame and the beliefs we have around ourselves that kind of keep us locked into not caring about ourselves or thinking less of ourselves. So let's do a few practices here. I'm just going to walk you through 3 different self-compassion practices, and these can be practiced, on their own individually. You can meet a moment of suffering with these practices individually. I'm gonna, for the sake of our time together today, I'm just going to be weaving them into each other, and we'll be practicing them all together. So the first thing I'm going to invite you to do is get into a comfortable position. So think about, how do you want to be sitting down right now? Do you want to be lying down right now or standing? So take a moment just to get a sense of what position you want to be in to do these practices, and any of those will work. And so the first practice I'm going to take you through is referred to as self-compassionate touch. And this is one of the ways that we can meet moments of distress by providing ourselves with gentle touch that is just intended to provide some self-soothing. Touch is one of the ways that we tap into what's referred to as the love hormone, oxytocin. It's a hormone that helps us to feel connected and soothed, and it's one of the ways that we can meet moments of dysregulation, really allowing ourselves to, or offering ourselves some self-soothing. So we'll move through a series of touch, hands touching the body, and I just want you to notice how your body responds to those sensations of touch. So I'll first begin by just inviting you to close your eyes down so you can really feel into the somatic experience of being with these different touch points on the body. And if you don't feel comfortable having your eyes closed, of course, you can leave them open and just bring your gaze down to the floor if you're sitting, or up towards the ceiling if you're lying down, or towards a wall, and just trying to soften your gaze. So our first areas of touch, we're going to place one hand on our lower abdomen, just below the belly button. And then we're going to place another hand in the area of the heart. And you're just going to provide some gentle pressure. And as you do this, I'm just going to invite you to feel into these sensations of touch against the body. Perhaps also noticing the breath. And see if you can get a sense of how your nervous system responds to this touch of the hands on the body. And as you're ready to, we're then just going to move the hand that's on the heart, we're just going to move it down to the belly and put it on top of the other hand. Once again, just putting some gentle but firm pressure against the lower abdomen. Slowly inhaling and exhaling. Perhaps noticing the rise and fall of the belly. And when you're ready, we're going to once again relocate the hands. So this time we're going to place both hands over the heart. Now, if you don't feel comfortable having both hands flat over the heart, sometimes it feels a little soft. One option is to make a fist and draw the fist up against the chest and then just lay the hand on top of the fist. You choose. So 2 hands flat or 1 fist and 1 hand on top of the fist. Once again, gentle but firm pressure. And just noticing how your body responds. There's no right or wrong here. Just noticing what serves you, your nervous system. And then we're just going to put 1 hand down on the thigh, and then we'll place 1 hand on the cheek. And you can even lean the head onto the palm of the hand, feeling into that sensation of touch. Noticing how your body responds. And then when you're ready, taking that same hand, just placing it along the back of the neck. Just gently along the cervical vertebrae, along the back of the neck. Holding here for a moment and breathing. And when you're ready, we're going to take actually both arms now, and we're just going to wrap our arms around ourselves. 1 arm underneath the armpit and the other around the opposite shoulder. Just giving ourselves a nice little squeeze here, just giving ourselves a hug. Seeing what that feels like. And when you're ready, releasing your hug and just bringing your arms back down to rest on your thighs or at the sides of the body, whatever works for you. So just noticing which one of those points of contact served you best. Was one more accessible than the others? Was one more soothing than another? Then we're going to move into what's referred to as a self-compassion break. And this is once again, a practice we can use in the moments of distress. It can be a short practice or it can be an extended practice, but one that really can help you tap into self-compassion. So I want you to bring to mind, an area in your life where you might be having some difficulty. And I'm going to invite you to bring to mind something that isn't terribly stressful. So nothing that is overactivating for you, but an area where you might be experiencing difficulty or where you've had some struggles lately, perhaps an incident that occurred. So bringing that to mind for a moment and perhaps revisiting it, getting into the specifics of where the issue lies, the problem is, who's involved, how you feel about it. So once you have a sense of this, noticing how your body is responding in terms of how you feel it physically in your body, perhaps a stress response in the musculature of the body, or perhaps thoughts that arise or emotions that may be present. So notice the activation, the discomfort that may be present. And in this moment, recognizing that you have awareness, that there is mindfulness here, an observation, yes, this is suffering. Or this is difficult, just saying to ourselves internally, this is hard. This is something that is difficult or challenging for me. I'm having a hard time with this. This is the mindfulness piece of self-compassion. And moving into the shared common humanity, recognizing that whatever you're grappling with, whatever this challenge is, it's part of being a human being, that you are not alone in this struggle. Other people struggle in similar ways, have similar feelings. Have similar challenges. So recognizing that this is not a solitary experience, but rather part of being a human being. And then finally, meeting this with kindness and care. And this could be a moment where you use one of those touch points, placing a hand on the heart or on the belly, cheek, and offering yourself some words of self-compassion. So really attending to whatever need is present for you in this moment. Perhaps you have a need for safety. Saying, may I be protected here? And if you're not feeling good about yourself or meeting some sense of inadequacy, perhaps phrases such as, I'm still learning and growing. I'm not alone in my suffering. Everybody makes mistakes. So really attending to yourself with kindness and friendliness like you would a good friend. Giving yourself the words that you need to hear right now that will support you. Will give you some relief from the suffering. This is what we refer to as a self-compassion break, taking a moment to just acknowledge the pain that's there, recognizing that we are part of a larger human family, that our suffering is not something we do alone. And finally, offering ourselves words of encouragement and support, much like we would a friend. Befriending ourselves, befriending our suffering. And when you're ready to, we'll move into a final practice called breathing in and breathing out self-compassion. Breathing in and breathing out compassion. So I'm going to invite you now to just take a few moments to tap into the felt sensation of the breath. Just noticing the body breathing in and breathing out. And if it's problematic for you to attend to the breath and you need another anchor, you might want to see if you can sense into the beat of the heart, perhaps feeling into the pulse of the body. Or feeling into sensations in the palms of the hands or the bottoms of the feet. But if you can stay with the breath, using the breath as your anchor, and we're gonna, on the inhale, start to imagine ourselves breathing in compassion, bringing it into our bodies, really allowing our breath to bring some compassion into ourselves. Moving it all through our bodies, into our hearts and nervous systems. Giving ourselves kindness and care. And just allowing it, each inhale to be a breath of self-compassion. And if you need another source of access for self-compassion, perhaps just allowing the warmth of the body to expand from the heart out into the extremities, and allowing that warmth to be the sense of compassion moving through your body. So breathing in and breathing out, inhaling self-compassion. And if you feel inclined to do so when you're ready, if there is someone in your life who you know is struggling or suffering, perhaps on your exhale, imagining your breath, your exhale, extending compassion to that person. So breathing compassion into yourself and extending compassion outward to someone you care about in your exhale. Toggling back and forth as long as that feels skillful for you. And if it doesn't, then just either returning to breathing in compassion. But if that's challenging as well, you can just focus on extending out compassion in your exhale. But just choosing what serves you best in this moment. And when you're ready to do so, we're going to transition again. So I'm going to invite you now to bring your awareness into your body, either sitting or standing or lying down. However you find yourself right now. Noticing touch points along the back of the body, the hips and thighs, the feet, just noticing where you're making contact with the surface you're in contact with right now. Noticing the position of the body. And if your eyes have been closed, going ahead and opening your eyes. And then just taking a moment to reorient to the space that you're in. So just taking a moment to look through the room that you're in. Perhaps naming a few objects to yourself quietly. Just bringing yourself back into this space, being here together. You may want to take a moment to just bring some movement into the shoulders. Or perhaps extending the arms overhead, inhaling, and floating the arms down on the exhale. And as you're ready to, we'll begin to move into some dialogue to see how those practices went for you or to answer any questions you might have. So I'm going to lean on Christy and Mike here to help me with this portion. So what questions do you have about self-compassion, or what did you notice in doing those practices together? Whether we're talking about compassionate touch, the self-compassion break, or inhaling and exhaling compassion. What did you notice?
So Kay says, I have a lot of stress trapped in my body. This helps a lot.
Okay. Yeah.
So thank you for that, Kay.
Thank you.
That's it, Amy.
Okay.
You've answered all their questions. I bet you they're lulled into relaxation, introspection.
Okay. All right. Well, where are we at on time?
We're at 45.
Okay.
So you can go another 5 minutes if you've got any like closing remarks or anything like that, or what have you. I can put them on a
Okay.
15-minute break. But my thoughts are close this out if you could, and then I'll put them on break as Carrie. He's the bookend. He'll put them all to sleep. So
Okay. Well, I just encourage you guys to, consider, where are the places in my life, where I experience suffering in terms of, whether that's, a heavy critical judgmental mind or, physical discomfort or emotional challenges you may face from time to time. And are there ways that you can start to open up space for compassion for yourself? Kindness and friendliness is not just something, although most of us have been taught to externalize these experiences and to offer these things to those around us, it's also really important to be able to offer these qualities to ourselves. And I will speak from my own experience that in terms of being able to, be present with the difficult experiences that I've had, the more that I'm able to do that and make room for me, make room for my pain, make room for my own self-care, and attend to myself as if I matter, the more I'm able to extend that to other people as well from a much more authentic place. Self-compassion is really being aligned with what we need. What do I need in this moment of discomfort? How do I take care of myself in this moment of discomfort rather than white knuckling through? Because, everybody who has trauma, and I would say that's all of us now based on the experience of the pandemic, every one of us who experiences trauma can get really caught up in being overwhelmed by it. I don't want to underemphasize the overwhelm that can come with trauma. But through self-compassion practices, can we start to hold a little more space for the things that are hard for us? To meet ourselves with the kindness and compassion that we have, for so many of us, been taught to extend to other people. And to do so, knowing that if I can be present with my discomfort, with the things that are challenging for me, that perhaps I can also be more compassionate for the suffering of another and really understand it from a fundamental place of, yeah, me too. I know that. I know that feeling. I know that struggle. Or maybe I don't know that struggle, but I know what it's like to be with a struggle. So it's not, self-compassion is not selfish. I want to say that fundamentally, it is not selfish. Just as self-care is not selfish, just as healing is not selfish. These are things that not only help us to move forward and thrive in the world, but also help us to offer our support to the world again. So I would say that would be what I'd have to share. And I encourage you to work with these practices. See how they resonate.
We appreciate you. So just to close us out, Will Conrad shares, self-compassion is forgiving ourselves for feeling weak, for feeling the bouts of anger, sadness, introversion, and anxiety. And then Heather shares, as for self-compassion, it is something I need to work on and develop steps each day to better myself. So all to your point, Miss Amy.
Yeah.
But it's a practice worth.
And it's a practice, right? Right. It's something we don't master overnight. It's something we're constantly getting better at. So I have really enjoyed being in your presence today. I do hope that these practices will serve you as you move forward.
We appreciate you very much, as always.
For the next 30 minutes, we're going to do a yoga nidra. And basically what that means is you're just going to be relaxed, as calm as possible. So just find yourself the opportunity just to be in a comfortable setting. So you can lay on the floor, you can be in a chair, you can be wherever you need to be. And if you need to make adjustments real quick, go ahead and do that. But when I started doing yoga nidra in meditation, I just sat on the couch. So I actually put my legs over the arm of the couch, and then I would put the pillows behind my back. So just wherever it's going to be comfortable for you, just go ahead and find that comfortable position. And go ahead and close your eyes. Clear the mind and just begin to deepen the breath. Now we begin to transition. We're transitioning from a place of doing to a place of simply being. We will begin experiencing the practice of yoga nidra. This is a meditative form of self-inquiry. Allow your yoga nidra practice to serve you as a time for renewal, processing, and compassionate welcoming of all thoughts, all sensations, and emotions. Letting each of these objects within your awareness serve as guides, leading you back to your true self. Begin to find a breath that serves you, a breath that allows you to relax, a breath that truly syncs with the earth below you and the heavens above you. A slow, methodical, oceanic breath that pauses on the top of your inhales and pauses on the bottom of your exhales. We're going to go through and do a series of box breathing. So we'll inhale for 4 seconds. We'll pause and hold for 2. We'll exhale for 4 and pause and hold for 2. Then we'll increase that. We'll inhale for 6 seconds, pause for 4, exhale for 6 seconds, and then pause and hold. This breath should allow you to relax further and deeper. It should not create any anxiety or any stress. So feel free to make any variations to your breath to provide additional comfort. So go ahead and exhale here and release all the stale air, all the toxins, all the negative energy out of your lungs, out of your life. Now inhale, 2, 1. Pause and hold for 2, 1. Exhale, let it all go. 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause and hold for 2, 1. Now inhale for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause and hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, let it all go. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause and hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. One more time. Inhale for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause and hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, let it all go. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause and hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. Now just continue on your own. Continue to find that breath that really allows you to be calm and relaxed. And begin to set an intention. Come into attention of what serves you at this time, right here, right now. Just from a general observation of what's going on with you mentally, physically, and spiritually. And with every single breath in you take, you define yourself with that intention. You pause, you hang on to it, and as you exhale, you refine yourself and dive into just a little bit deeper of who you are and who you want to be. And just begin to release the tongue from the roof of the mouth and relax through the jaw. Relax through the back of the neck and all through your shoulders. Relax the clavicle, the scapula, and all through your arms, the triceps. Relax the biceps. All around the elbows. Down through your forearms. Relax around your wrist. And all through your hands. The palms. The back of the hands. The thumbs and all through your fingers. Now begin to relax through the spine, the shoulder blades, the back of the rib cage, the back of your heart, and all the way down to your sacrum, the lower back. Now begin to relax through the front part of your body, the chest cavity, where your heart and your lungs reside. And just remember that healthy cells vibrate at a higher frequency than the unhealthy cells. So as this healing energy begins to flow through you, it begins to heal you. Just relax through the entire digestive system, the stomach, the kidneys, through the liver, the colon, all the way down into your pelvic region. Now begin to relax through the glutes, the hamstrings, the quads, relax the IT bands, in both knees. Relax the shins. And the calves. Relax around your ankles and all through the feet. The heels, the tops of the feet to the toes, through the arches and the soles of the feet. Place your hands on your stomach, or you can have your left hand on your heart and the right hand on your belly. Just become aware of the gentle rise and fall of your breath. And feel the warmth beneath your hands and the tips of your fingers. Begin to build your awareness of the sense of feelings. The feelings that you have externally. The temperature of the room. The contact of your clothing against your skin. Now allow your arms to rest by your sides, your palms turned up. And come back to your intention for this yoga nidra practice and allow it to be a statement of truth in the present tense. So instead of saying, I want to be at peace and experience more love, you might say, I am peacefulness and loving kindness itself. No longer holding your intention for the future, but begin experiencing it right here, right now, as if it's already true. Begin to build your awareness of all the feelings that are occurring internally. As you begin to breathe and manifest your intention, you continue to define yourself with each and every single inhale you take. You pause, you hang on to it, and you refine yourself. You go a little bit deeper with that intention with every single exhale you take. Allow yourself to feel relaxed and at peace, content, and even connected. How connected you feel now, mentally, physically, and spiritually? Allow yourself to build awareness of all the sensations as I begin to name various parts of the body. Beginning in the mouth, become aware of all the sensations occurring inside the mouth. The tongue, the gums, inside your cheeks, the space between your lips and the roof of the mouth. And release the tongue from the roof of the mouth. And relax through the jaw. Now join all the structures of the mouth together, sensing the entire mouth simultaneously, while allowing yourself to find a deeper connection with contentment. And when thoughts and images arise, simply let them be here just as they are. Then gently return to pure sensation in the body. Build your awareness of all the sensations occurring down the back of the neck. All the sensations occurring through your shoulders. Through the clavicle, the scapula. Feel all the sensations occurring through your right tricep. Your right bicep. Down through the right elbow. Through the entire right forearm. the right wrist, and all the sensations occurring through the right hand. From the fingers, the palm to the back of the hand. All the ligaments and tendons through the entire right hand. Build your awareness of all the sensations occurring through the left tricep, your left bicep, down into your left elbow, through the entire left forearm, and around your left wrist, through the entire left hand, the thumbs, the fingers, the palm, the back of the hand, and all the joints, ligaments, and tendons through the entire left hand. Begin to build your awareness of all the sensations occurring through the spine, through the back of the heart, as well as the back of the rib cage. All the sensations occurring through the lower back into the sacrum. Now imagine the back of the heart opening up and growing roots to the earth below us. And allow yourself to plant seeds of positive affirmation with every single inhale you take. And you pull any weeds of doubt, any weeds of low self-esteem with each and every single exhale you take. Begin to breathe and manifest empowerment. Begin to breathe and manifest strength, courage, flexibility, as well as vulnerability. Allow yourself to be so raw right now, authentic, real, and genuine. And just feel how great it is to be right here in this space. Just to be in this breath, in this moment. That we're truly carefree, we're truly limitless. We're full of respect, honor, and pride. Now begin to build your awareness of all the feelings occurring externally and internally through the front part of the body. The chest cavity, through the heart, the lungs. Imagine your heart opening up to the spiritual side, to the heavens above us. That you now feel a connection to our spiritual side. You feel so connected to the earth below us. You feel so connected to the heavens above us. Begin to open up the left and the right side of your heart. And that you share love, respect, and acceptance to those people in our community. That your heart is overflowing with joy. Your heart is overflowing with love and acceptance right here, right now. Begin to allow that healing energy to flow through every single fiber, every cell of this spiritual vessel, that we truly begin to heal from the inside out. Build your awareness of all the sensations occurring in the right glute, the right hamstring, and through the right quad, the right IT band, and down around the right knee. Through the right shin, or the right calf. Around your right ankle, and all through the entire right foot. From the heels, the top of the foot to the toes, to the arches and the soles of the right foot. Begin to build your awareness of all the sensations occurring in the left glute, the left hamstring, through the entire left quad and IT band. Left knee and the entire left shin, the left calf, and down around the left ankle. And all through the left foot, from the heels to the top of the foot to the toes, the arches and the soles of the left foot. And remember that the left and the right never feel the same, that the past and the present never feel the same, the present and the future never feel the same. But every decision collectively that we made in our past brought us here for this precise moment, to connect, to bond, to yoke, to build ourselves and others up, to heal and transform. Begin to allow the entire body now to be a pool of sensations, and noticing how sensations are always changing and rising. They're moving through and dissolving in awareness. Also notice that awareness is unchanging, expansive. Begin to experience your breath and how the body naturally and easily breathes in sync with the earth below you as well as the heavens above you. The natural fluid rhythm of the breath riding on a sea of awareness, an oceanic breath that serves you, that calms you with each and every inhale. You continue to define yourself with that intention. You pause, you hang on to it, and you refine yourself with each and every single exhale you take. Feel the breath inside the nostrils, down your throat into the lungs, the gentle, natural movements of the body with the breath in and out. Observe any passing thoughts as they are, any passing emotions or memories. Even as awareness rests in pure sensation of the breath. And listen carefully to a few of the following statements. And if they resonate with you, you might silently repeat them to yourself. I have a body. I experience changing sensations in my body, but I am more than my body. I have a mind. My mind and its thoughts are valuable tools of discovery, but I am more than my mind. I have emotions. My emotions are diverse, changing, and sometimes contradictory. Since I can observe and understand my emotions, I am more than my emotions. I am more than the changing content of sensations, thoughts, and emotions. I am also the unchanging awareness in which all changing circumstances arise and fold and dissolve. Begin to allow yourself to relax further and deeper. As you relax totally through the jaw and the back of the neck, and all through the shoulders. Relax through the arms, the triceps and the biceps. Relax through the elbows, the forearms, the wrists, and all through the hands. Relax your shoulder blades. Relax the spine, the sacrum down into the lower back. Relax through the chest cavity, the heart, the lungs, all through the vital organs. Relax all through the legs, the glutes, the hamstrings, the quads. Relax your knees, the shins and the calves, the ankles and all through the feet, from the heels, the the tops of the feet to the toes, to the arches, to the soles of the feet. Begin to allow yourself to feel more connected and more relaxed than you have ever felt. And begin to allow the mind to escape the body for the next couple of minutes. To come into this trance where dreams and reality are truly fused together. Remember, you're in a safe space. I'll bring you out in just a few moments. And slowly and gently begin to reconnect your mind to the spiritual vessel. Feel the transformation from the inside out, that every single time we come to the mats, we truly transform. Slowly and gently begin to reawaken the body. As we transition from that state of being back into a state of doing, allow that intention to come back into the foreground. The intention of forgiveness or acceptance, or strength or courage, whatever it is that serves you today. Slowly and gently, just begin to reawaken the body and just find gentle movement wherever you're at. Through the hands and the feet and the toes. Whether you're seated or laying on the floor, give yourself the opportunity just to reawaken. Open the eyes and see this world differently. See yourself differently. Thank you guys so much for this opportunity to connect. I love and appreciate you guys. I respect you guys. If there's anything I can do for any one of you, please reach out to me anytime.